everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Rafael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Rafael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Good morning, Renaye. Thank you so much for being on Coaching Call. How are you this morning?
Hey, Sifu, doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to talk to you because we're going to talk about our future, and that's kids, right?
Yes.
So kids, if we treat them right when they're growing up, they will impact the world deeply.
100%, yes.
So let's talk about,
if they
go
treat
ahead.
themselves right.
Yes, we got to make sure they do that too. I want to know two things. One, where were you born? And before the age of 10, who would you say were your biggest influencers?
I was born in Pensacola, Florida, lived there through about the age of 9. So that was a transformational year to move. I went from Florida up to Delaware. So that was a big change. And I was born with a twin sister. So wasn't born by myself, identical twin. And probably the most influential people absolutely were my parents. I was fortunate enough to have really great parents. Grew up in a wonderful household, loving, supportive, and just great family.
Love it. Love it. Twin, huh?
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Me too.
Isn't it incredible that you're a twin, but don't you have twin boys?
I have fraternal twins, a son and a daughter. I do.
Oh,
yes.
Son and daughter. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Lots of fun.
Here's the crazy thing. My dad was a twin, and I was hoping to get twins. Never happened for me.
Well, luck of the draw, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. So talk to me about your childhood. What was it like growing up? Before the age of 9, you had things in your life. Obviously, you remember your parents there being very important in you. How was your relationship with your twin?
Yeah. Karen and I, we're close. We did a lot of activities together, like baton and dance and that kind of thing. But it was really interesting because early on, I knew that wasn't really my thing. I love playing sports. I love playing sports with my brother. But I did a lot of things I thought I was supposed to do. And that was on me. It was my decision, based on kind of stereotypical female things, and did for many, many years. And, that is kind of part of my story, and part of too, when I was raising my own children, I wanted to make sure they understood that they could do whatever they wanted to do. And when they were making decisions about what to do, don't guess what I want them to do what they wanted to do. Because I made decisions based on what I thought I was supposed to do, as opposed to what I really wanted to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But you still did those things with your sister, even though it wasn't your cup of tea, right?
We did, yeah. We actually, for both baton and dance, we did several like duets and stuff. Of course, people always love the twin thing, right? So we had a lot of fun with that. But another part of my story, of my personal story, and one of the reasons why I do what I do now, is that when we were growing up, my twin sister Karen, she was just absolutely brilliant. Just one of these people, naturally smart, gifted and talented, all of that, and I wasn't. And one of the beliefs that I had developed at a young age, which was an error, was that being smart was just a natural thing. And it wasn't until I was about 9, probably 7 or 8, I discovered that if you study, you can do well. But it was really interesting that for years there, I thought that she was the smart twin and I was the dumb twin. And that's just something I carried myself. I didn't talk to other people about it, but it's just something I felt. I didn't really get very good grades, and just because things didn't come naturally to me. And when I discovered that I had just had a different way of learning and that I could do well, long about high school, I graduated number 5 in my class. Karen was number 2, but I excelled, but I also had to work a little differently and a little bit harder at it as well. But it's one of the reasons why empowerment is such an important theme actually throughout my life and the different career choices that I've had through the years.
Mm. And is that one of the reasons that you love empowering kids with coaching?
Well, it is, because I want all children to see that magnificence inside of themselves, to really own who they are, and to know that they're different, isn't better than or worse than anybody else's. It just is them. It's to how to honor their own uniqueness. And it really is about helping them build strong self-esteem so they can feel good no matter what is going on externally in their life, whether it's grades or performance in a sport or friendship issues, that they can have confidence to move through their fears and go for their goals, and really supporting them and realizing the most important thing and most powerful thing they have is right here. It's their
That's
mind
right.
and the thoughts that they choose to think about themselves and what's possible for their lives.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love that. So at the age of 9, you moved.
Yes. Yes.
Talk to us about that. What was the change? Did you feel like you were leaving something behind? Were you excited for the new opportunities? What was that like?
It was really, really fast, because whenever we moved, 2 big moves as a family, and we only had like a couple weeks notice. So it was a big change in that, friends, that kind of thing. And there's a big difference culturally between the South, Florida in particular. I used to talk like this, and going up north. And I didn't even know what an accent was. And boy, did they make fun of me and Karen.
Mm,
We say y'all all the time. And it was something else. But it was also, we created a very good friend group up there. We had lots of activities. It was the bicentennial year. So that was really exciting to be able to be around a lot of history up in the Philadelphia area. We were in Wilmington, Delaware, so it was real close to Philadelphia. So lots of
mm,
really great things going on. But my parents were always that solid foundation, no matter where we went. And we have a younger brother as well. His name's Mark, and just really love him. We were real close growing up, and so that core family unit really provided that stability through move and through change as
mm.
well. But I don't remember it being like overly traumatic.
Right.
But we made friends and new activities and new cultures and new experiences, and realized that, hey, I was a little different than, than what people were being around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you what was it like for you and Karen in school? Were you mistaken? If she got in trouble, did you get in trouble too? I mean, what was that like?
No, not at all. One of the things my mom did really well was to make sure that we saw ourselves as individuals, and other people did too. Like she would, because back then twins were unusual. They're a lot more common now, but back, especially, well, identical twins is,
Right.
that hasn't really changed. It's more fraternal twins. Um, and so she would make sure that teachers understood that we're different people, et cetera. And we were always in different classrooms, different teachers, that kind of thing. At least in the earlier years, once you get older, there's might be only one calculus class or one advanced history class or whatever. But we didn't get mistaken for each other very often, because people would get to know us, even though we looked a lot alike. Our
Mm.
personalities are quite different, and it's, yeah. And I have 2 names. If I hear Karen, I turn around. She hears Renee, she turns around. And that's
Right.
okay.
I
Yeah,
love
she's a great woman. I love her to death, and we're really close now, closest we've ever
it.
been in our lives.
And did that happen because of age? Did that happen because of an occurrence that happened that you guys got closer?
Yeah, it really was more after college. Even though we went to the same college, we really didn't see each other very much. And then after college, we both happened to live in the same town. We actually roomed together for a little while. And at the time, I was dating my now husband, and we'd been together like 5 years or so. So we were definitely on the path towards marriage. And she was dating someone. Actually, we set her up on a blind date with one of John's schoolmates from Texas A&M. And And so we would start hanging out a little bit more and just getting to know each other better on a whole different level. That was really a big part of it. Because even in like high school, we were in very different activities. She did cheerleading and that kind of thing, and I did sports. I did soccer and basketball early on, and student council. So we're in very different activities as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Besides your sister and your family, who would you say were some of your influencers that really guided you in where you are today?
Yeah. Well, and where I am today, when I graduated from college, I started my career with IBM. And one of the things that's really nice about working with a really big company, and IBM in particular back then, was that continuing education or access to it was really prevalent. And back then, it was online learning was just starting, and I discovered the world of personal development. And I remember thinking to myself, why didn't I learn this when I was a kid? It made no sense to me that that we're not taught these things when we're young, because that's when our core thoughts and beliefs about who we are and what's possible for our lives are formed. And I knew that when I had children one day, I wanted them to learn this. And that's kind of how I got to, not kind of, that is how I got to where I am now. But over the years, I really became a student of personal development work. Absolutely loved it. I would read different books and workshops and trainings and experiential trainings in order to really develop my mindset and to apply that to my career. So I had a very successful corporate career, very fulfilling relationships. And when I had my children, that's when I started looking for something to help them. Now my kids are 23 now. So this was years ago, 20 years ago. And there just wasn't anything out there. And that's kind of what got the ball rolling, as I started creating stuff for them. And from there, my vision grew.
But you did pursue a different career. You went to IBM.
Right.
What was the catalyst for you to even pursue that?
Yeah. Well, I was always more of an analytical type and wanted to go the engineering route, computer science. Computers were really becoming big back then. This was like the mid to late 80s. And I saw that as really interesting and really different and new and dynamic. And so I went that path. Now it's interesting because I started my career out computer science, working on big mainframe computers. Our customer was NASA, so it was a lot of fun because I was down in Clear Lake, and it's a really great community down there, and so much was going on with the space program, and so that was really cool. But the other thing I discovered, in addition to personal development, is that computers weren't my passion. It's like but when I was in school, I was taking like 18 hours a semester, working, trying to get it, get good grades, keep scholarships, get it done. And I spent so much time, Sifu, running up the ladder that I didn't realize the ladder's leaning against the wrong wall. And I started discovering business also through the continuing education that was offered there at IBM. And I was really good. I had really strong people skills. And so quickly had, some really great responsibilities managing our subcontractors and other people. And so I started reading business books and learning about that and taking some of those courses. And my husband, who was also an engineer, he was an aerospace engineer, he discovered finance. And so he's like, well, I think I'm going to go back to school and get my MBA. I'm like, well, we just got out of school. And then as I started thinking about it, I was like, I think I want to go back to school too. So we actually put a plan in place. And then within a year, because you have to apply and all that kind of stuff, we moved to Austin, Texas to go to the University of Texas and complete our MBAs. And it was, at the time, it was only a full-time program. So we had just gotten married, back in school for 2 years straight, to finish our MBAs. But it really wasn't the best things we ever did. It changed the trajectory of both of our careers for sure.
So you're both going full-time to school. How'd you live?
Well, we had student loans, and back then school was a lot more reasonable than it is now. And we also worked part-time jobs, and we had also saved. If you think about it, we had just gotten out of school, both of us working engineering jobs, no kids. So we were saving money. Of course, we had student loans from undergrad, but they weren't huge because school was like a fifth of what it is now. I paid for almost all of my school back then. in undergrad. And of course, we paid for all of it in grad school. But yeah, it's investing in yourself and
That's right.
reinventing yourself. That, I mean, it's so important, I think, for people to understand that you can reinvent yourself just because you got a certain major or in a certain job, or if you're not feeling passionate and fulfilled, there's nothing wrong with making a change. Every skill set I've ever developed served me on that next step.
Nice. And I love what you talked about is a lot of people don't move forward with their lives because they're afraid of that change. They're
Right,
afraid of the unknown, if you will.
right, right.
And it's a scary thing, right? Especially what you and your husband both did. It's
Yeah,
scary. But you said, you know what? We're young enough. We can handle this. We can do whatever it takes to level up, right?
right.
That's an incredible story, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um,
And see, Phil, it's
what I
one of the reasons why we teach children how to manage change, and we help them understand why change is scary. It's the
Mhm.
brain science behind it. Whenever you're doing something new, you don't have the neural pathways for it. And that's why it feels so scary. Our brains are designed to protect us. And if we have something that we don't know what it's all about, it's going to put us on alert to make sure that we're staying safe. And we teach this to children so they can understand that, okay, that's why I'm feeling afraid, but I don't have to let that keep me stuck. I can start building neural pathways in different ways. I can learn about this. Is there some way to practice? Can I talk to someone who's done this before? Start planting those seeds and building those neural pathways so that it doesn't become quite so scary. And of course, the only way to get rid of the fear is to just do it, right?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And knowing
It,
you can always course correct.
that's right.
Yeah,
Like a pilot, like a pilot.
right.
Um, because we are a pilot of our own lives, of our own destiny, right? Because if you get on an airplane, there is a destination that you actually have to go to.
Yeah,
But guess what? Sometimes that destination can change.
absolutely. And
Or
that's
we get there and it's not the right destination for us.
exactly. Well, the opening skill that we teach children is about the power of their mind. And we teach them that just like an airplane takes you where you want to go on vacation, your mind takes you where you want to go on in life. And we teach them that you have two parts to your mind, your conscious mind, your subconscious mind. Conscious mind's like a pilot, subconscious mind's like your co-pilot. And we teach conscious mind you're aware of, subconscious mind belief systems. So then we teach them about what belief systems are, how to identify and shift limiting beliefs, how to proactively create those positive beliefs. So absolutely, the airplane analogy. In fact, the first story in our coaching curriculum is who's flying your plane.
Ah, I like it. Right.
Yep.
Beautiful. So 20 years ago,
Yes.
you started this journey and you were at your destination, but your destination changed when you had your boy and your girl,
Right.
who are now 23 and they're fraternal twins.
Right.
You decided to change your career based on your children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't actually make the career change till they were about 7 or 8. But I
Mm.
started working with my kids when they were about 3 or 4. And one of the first things we worked on was self-talk. Teaching about their inside voice and
Mhm.
how what they say to themselves is more powerful than what anyone else says to them. And really worked with them on that. And sometimes when I was trying to teach them some of the things I wanted to teach them, sometimes it felt a little kind of lectury or kind of boring. So that's when I started writing stories, was to help bring these concepts to them. And that's when the vision started growing. It's like, I want to help more children. Because at the time, the kids are getting older, they start getting into school. So we're around more children. They start playing sports. Like I helped coach a softball team, and my husband was helped coach when my kids did like basketball and volleyball. You know how it is when they're little, they try all these different things. And just being around all these different children and really seeing how much mindset impacts kids, it can be so crushing. The smallest thing
Mm.
can be so crushing. And for kids to learn how to navigate situations more empowered, it's like that's when the vision really, really grew. And so when I left it was a different career. I was vice president of marketing for a company here in Austin. It served schools. We did broadband networks to schools to help really rural schools be connected to the world through broadband. It was amazing
Wow.
vision, amazing mission vision. Love the company, But this vision that I had for bringing personal development and mindset work to children just was really growing. And so I retired from that job. I took a year off to complete the coaching curriculum and launched Adventures in Wisdom. It's about 2012 when I first launched the company.
Wow, incredible. And
Yeah.
so you took a year to make sure that you were putting, I guess, all your ducks in a row, right?
Just
To make sure.
writing the curriculum. And my kids they're about 8 at that time, if I remember correctly. Can't do the math in my head that fast. So, I had this sense of urgency. They're in elementary school, we're approaching middle school. It's like I really wanted them to develop these skills. And I discovered that the power of storytelling and using the stories to help teach these skills, that was the key. Because they loved the stories, they understood the skills, they could see how skills could help the characters in the story navigate life. And it was just so that I had this real sense of urgency to bring this to my own children, of course, first. And they're my little guinea pigs. Whenever I wrote a story, I would share it with them and get their feedback on it. Yeah.
So one of the things that I always say, it's the stories that amplify your life.
Yeah.
But when you think about what you were doing, it was stories to teach, stories to impact.
Exactly.
What was your first story?
Yes. It was about self-talk, and it's called Choosing Your BFF, Best Friend Forever. And it was about teaching my children about the power of recognizing and shifting the limiting negative self-talk and how to proactively create the positive self-talk. That was one of the first ones. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
You had to have put a lot of thought into putting that story together. How long did it take for you to really put it all together and say, you know what, let me have my testers check it out first, right?
Yeah, yes. Sifu, it was such a beautiful creative experience because I really was able to spend a year writing and in creative flow. And my
Mm,
kids were in school, so they wouldn't get home probably until about 2:30 or 3. And that was another thing, is it was really important to me to be able to make all of their activities and games. And I loved, greeting them at the door each day or picking them up when I needed to, that sending them off to school in the morning. I just really, really wanted to be able to have that experience. And so as far as writing the story, I felt like a lot of them were written actually when I was jogging. And because a lot of them were just kind of downloaded. I would set my
mm,
intention. This is what I want to create. This is the topic I want to cover next. And just ideas would start popcorning. And in average, it would take about a week to put everything together. The story would always come first. And
right.
then you put together the discussion questions to really support children and apply into their lives, and then come up with different activities. A lot of them are like art projects or games or just practice exercises so they can actually practice applying it to their own lives. And then all of that was done. And then I went back when I started getting the vision of what this company could be. And I was like, oh, well, I need something for the parents. And so that's when I created the Parent Mentors Guide, and that's got the background information and coaching tips. So it was kind of this evolving process. But when I first launched the company, in the curriculum, it was a home study program for parents to use with their own children. But then what happened is I had coaches and counselors and educators and people coming to me wanting to use it in their own work. And I thought, well, that's a
Mm,
great idea, because I knew they could reach people I would never be able to reach. And that's when I created the certification program and started certifying coaches. And that's pretty much our focus since 2013. We've got coaches all around the world, over 30 countries, that are using my work with kids. And it's just amazing. The impact that they're having is just, it just warms my heart. They're
wow,
making a huge difference.
what an incredible journey you've had when you started this just for your children, and then you realized that the impact that you can make would be that much greater if other people were putting the message out.
Yeah, and it's amazing because we have people in all other, different countries or religious backgrounds or whatever, and they can take the curriculum and then they can add their own personality, culture, religious beliefs if they want to kind of niche it into the market they most want to serve. So it's really really amazing how our coaches can bring who they are into what they do. You know, some of our coaches do yoga or meditation or breath work, or we have several who are equine. They do equine coaching, you know, with horses, and a couple of them
Mhm.
do coaching with their dogs. They have like service dogs. So it really is neat how creative they are.
Pretty cool. And all of these coaches are working with kids, right?
Yes, absolutely. Mhm.
Uh, I can only imagine that a yoga coach who is teaching kids yoga is now also implementing your work.
Yes, very
So
powerful. Mind,
oh
body,
my
spirit.
gosh, oh yeah, it's huge because it's not just your body, it's your mind. So
Exactly.
it's a
And
true
martial
connection.
arts, we have several martial arts instructors too. They
Oh,
have their own
nice, love it.
studios. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for me, I opened up my own studio in 95, but I had been teaching prior to that for other instructors.
Hmm.
And it's very interesting because the way I use martial arts is a vehicle, but for me, it's really the person that I'm trying to teach, right? It's not martial
Right.
arts it's, I love martial arts,
Yeah. I actually
but
studied for just a few years. I loved it as well. That's a long time ago, my late 20s.
But for me, it's just like you, it's how can we enrich their lives by what they think, what they say it, how they show respect. And I love that because even when the kids come in, they have to get their card in order to bring it to class. And we don't need the cards. We don't need the cards at all. The only reason I do it is to teach the kids how to communicate. So they
Mm.
come in, they change their shoes, then they come to the front desk, and then they have to ask for their cards. But they don't just so give me my card. No, no. We have to say first you have to, and we teach them how to greet somebody. Say, hello, how are you today? Wait for them to answer. And then if they ask you how you doing, you give them a response, and then they have to say thank you, and then they go in class, right? And the same thing when they meet the instructor inside, they give the instructor the card, and either they fist bump or high five, and then the instructor asks them how their day is going. And so
Mhm.
we're getting this communication with kids that they shouldn't come in and meet us somebody new for the first time. Don't get me wrong, all kids should be aware of meeting strangers anyway, but um, if there's a parent or somebody there, they should have the confidence to say hello to somebody. And
100%. I
so
love what you're saying. Yes.
we're teaching them those concepts of eye contact, speak out loud. Nobody hears you when you mumble. All these little things that we're teaching,
Yeah.
and this is why I think your program is incredible.
Yeah. Well, and I love what you're doing because those social emotional skills and ability to communicate are critical. And
Mhm.
both my kids are thriving because they're both emotionally intelligent. They can communicate with people of any age. And we really emphasize, my husband and I both emphasized that growing up, how important it was to be able to, like you said, make that eye contact, pick up the phone and have a phone call. Because so many people their age, all they want to do is text. They, you know, it's social media, all that is just, and especially with AI now, our world is going to change so fast. And being able to have those people skills and communication skills and ability to have relationships is going to be is, is absolute essential for our kids and for their mental health as well.
Oh my goodness, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me share this with you, and then we'll come right back.
Okay.
You followed the rules, tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy, you're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder, you need better. Ready to begin? Start today.
Powerful.
One of the things that I've done with this program, Sifu's Mind Body Method, is that if I have an executive who's doing it, I tell them, by the way, this is not just for you. They're like, what do you mean? I said, well, it's for your partner and your kids, because I have a different program for kids and it's included. And so for me, it's the family unit, just like you and your husband have this family unit where you guys made decisions together. And I think that's such an important aspect, that every child should have a voice and they should actually be heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When you help somebody, a coach maybe who is considering doing the program, what's one of the first things that you look for when somebody is interested?
Yeah. Our coaches, they're such amazing people, and they tend to have three things in common. It's the things that we are looking for. Love children. Working with children is just something they have to do. I'd say it's in their bones. And most of them are already working with children in some way, even if whether it's volunteering or having children of their own, kind of like my path and just wanting to reach more kids. But love children, love personal development work and mindset work. Most of them are on similar type of journey. A lot of us have the same books on our bookshelves. And then they see serving children as helping them do their work in the world. Whether it's a part-time coaching or full-time coaching, it helps them fulfill their purpose. So that's really what we're looking for. And for us, it's an opportunity for someone who wants to become a life coach for kids. They step into it. We're not going to them saying, hey, you got to do this. They step into it. They self-select in. We get the right people in here.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And like I said earlier, I use martial arts as a vehicle, right? Because every day I wake up and I ask God, how can I help? What gifts have I received from Him that I can share, right? And one of them is to help each child see how they are worth something, how they're so valuable. And one of the things is I'm teaching them as they do things, because every day we have a student of that class, right? So we call them student of the day. And it doesn't matter how many classes I have that day, we pick one child.
Yeah.
And so I have a wall set up with bookshelves, and in that bookshelf I have all kinds of goodies. I have books. I have children coloring books. I have reading books. I have different toys and so forth. And then I have a basket. And so when they get student of the day, they can choose to get a gift from the basket, or they can't choose something from the shelf. They actually have to get a gold coin. So they get 10 gold coins, and then they can purchase something from the shelf.
Great.
And what winds up happening is one of the parents said, why are you doing that? I said, well, I'm teaching your children several things. One is saving, setting a goal, because now they see their goals. Like, I want that book. And it's funny because yesterday I had a kid come over to me and say, Sifu, I saved my 10 coins. I said, okay, how can I help you? He goes, well, I want to buy something. Okay, let's go look at the shelf. So he goes, I want that one right there. I said, you want this coloring book? He goes, oh yeah. I said, okay. I don't just hand it to him. I said, okay, now you got to count out those coins in my hand. So they're learning the value. And one of the things, and I said to the kids, by the way, your parents cannot buy these books. Only you can. So
Love
now
it.
I'm teaching the kids that they can set their minds to do something, and they have to work towards it.
Yep.
So when we think about empowering the kids, I think that learning how to save and set goals is probably one of the most critical aspects that we can teach our children, right?
It's so important. And we have a whole what we call a segment. We call it Dream Power. And it's all about creating that vision, learning how to set and achieve your goals, visualization, affirmations, gratitude, all wrapped into that. And I love what you're saying there too about it's the longer term, because we live in this always on instant, I got to have it now world now. And helping children understand that it's okay to have longer term goals and to celebrate the steps along the way as part of
Mhm.
the journey can support them in achieving really big things in their lives.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. It's
Uh,
beautiful.
thank you. Well, I had a kid who told me, Sifu, I have like 30 gold coins. And I said, what are you doing with them? He goes, I'm saving them. I said, that's great. I said, but you can't put those in a bank. You can't put them in an investment portfolio. I said, you actually have to use these. But there is real money that you can put in a bank and make it money markets
Right.
and all these different things. And I also said, um, he goes, well, I don't want any of these books. I said, okay. I said, what about your sister? You think she may want some?
Mm,
Maybe she does. I said, so why don't you find out what she wants and you gift it to her? Don't gift her the book or whatever. Just gift her 10 coins so she can buy something. He's like, oh, I never thought of it that way. So I'm teaching
yeah.
them also how to be generous, right?
Yeah.
Because you may have enough of something and someone else may not.
Right.
Right. So it's all these tiny little lessons that we need to teach our kids. Um, what
Tiny
are some?
lessons are so huge, though. I just love it. I love what you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying it here is because anybody watching who owns a yoga studio, martial arts studio, anything like any dance studios, even, you can do this in your own place. And don't get me wrong, I spend money on all these things. So I buy 100 books at a time. And so I'm an avid reader. I also don't just buy books for the children. I buy books for adults. And every so often I'll talk to an adult and I'll say, do you like reading? If they say yes, I go, I think you may like this book, and I gift it to them, right?
Mhm.
But if they go, no, I don't really read, then I'm not going to waste that book on them.
Right. Right.
So it's important that we understand where somebody may
Right.
enjoy something. And so when I spend the money on the books, I buy all these toys and I put them in a basket. And you talked about a quick reward. The younger kids always go for the basket because it's they can grab a toy and go. The other ones, they're more elaborate gifts. So now they actually do have to save. So I say this with you now because anybody who's watching this or watching it on the replay say, I can do that with my own community, with my own kids, and
Mhm.
bring more value to what I'm doing because it gives them something to look forward to. And here's the cool thing, whether you know it or not, those kids are going to behave during that class because otherwise, if they don't behave, they don't get picked student of the day.
Yeah. Very
And
cool.
sometimes they break my heart, and I have to give it to all of my everybody's student of the day today because they're so awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. Sounds like you're doing a lot of fantastic things for those kids.
Yeah.
Lessons
So
are
talk
so
to us
important.
about what's one of the lessons that you know that has impacted your own children?
Yeah. Well, I'll come back to self-talk because that to me is just the foundation of everything for our children, their self-esteem, their confidence, resilience, being able to bounce back from disappointments, and even what they achieve is all about the messages we send to ourselves because every moment of every day we're saying something to ourselves that are either building ourselves up or tearing us down. And just learning to use, well, first to recognize and shift those limiting messages, more negative self-talk, proactively creating the positive self-talk. Because what happens is when children learn how to proactively practice self-talk, we teach them to create a mirror mantra where they're saying something to themselves that, building themselves up, you got this, or whatever resonates with them, is strengthening the neural pathways in their brain to think positively about themselves. And wouldn't it be amazing if every child, the thoughts that pop into their head about themselves or positive, supportive thoughts. I mean, it would change the world. And so that is just, it's such an important skill. We actually give what we call a skill book. It's how to teach this. We give this away to everybody on our website because we want people to experience this and see what the power of mindset skills training is for children. And it helps us grown-ups too, for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we forget as grown-ups. We
Yes.
forget that the inner voice, right? We forget the inside voice. And sometimes I tell the kids, use your inside voice. You're so loud. but
That's a
sometimes
different inside voice. That's a volume
that's
inside
correct.
voice.
That's a
Yeah.
volume based.
That's a volume piece, yes. Yeah, we have those inside voices too. So two different kinds of inside voices. Gotta love the English language, right? Yeah, and what we do is we teach children how to look for the grungies and this is a term that we use in our curriculum. Grungies are how you're feeling in your body. You're just feeling a little off. Something's not quite right. And whenever they're feeling the grungies is to examine the thoughts that they're having, because your thoughts create your feelings. And if they can pay attention to their thoughts and shift the thoughts to being more supportive, that can be absolutely transformational for them.
Yeah. You just talked about transformational. Let's get real for a minute. How do we help children who are just, let's put it this way, maybe they're 13, 14, and they act like they're 2 because they're in their terrible 2s. They don't know how to act their age. And when we tell them to act their age, they look at us like we're strange.
They probably don't know what that means.
Right.
It's, if they haven't been raised with that, they may not even understand really what that means. And, that's where coaching can absolutely help support a child. It's going to be a journey. It's not something that happens overnight, but teaching them core values of self-leadership, like choosing integrity, choosing respect, how you're treating others, self-respect, self-responsibility. Those are 4 of the core values we teach for self-leadership. And then teaching them how to make good decisions. We don't teach kids how to make decisions. And it's such a powerful skill because especially when it comes to situations they might face with peers, the best time for a child to make a decision about what they want for themselves is when they're not in that peer pressure situation. They need to know what they think about cheating, smoking, skipping school, experimenting with drugs, sharing their body. They need to make those kind of decisions before they're in that situation. And teaching them how to make a decision is really important.
That right there is self-worth, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely.
Yet it's not one and done with a child. It's
not one and done with us either. I don't know about you, but I'm constantly working on myself.
Yeah, without a doubt. But a lot of people say or believe that, I told them once, I told them 10 times.
Right.
But one of the things that I tell all my clients, whether they're in martial arts or in business or wherever they are, is that I will continue to help you correct as often as I need to. And I will never say, this is the last time I'm helping you.
Right.
Because the reminders, they need to be as consistent as the actions, right?
Right. Exactly. And once they get it at a level where they take ownership of it, that's when change will happen. Yeah, it's one thing for us to tell kids things, but until it lands for them, they understand why it's important for them to either behave in a certain way, act a certain way, whatever, they're going to be resistant to change.
When you started this journey, did you imagine it would grow as big as it has?
Oh, I had no idea. No, I mean, I thought, hey, I've got this great curriculum. I'm going to share it with parents who want to, like me, bring these skills to their own kids. I had no idea I'd have a certification program, and that's all we've done since 2013. Hundreds of coaches around the world who are using our work, and it's been kind of an evolving sort of thing. And one thing I discovered about just a few years into it is like, okay, especially coaches from an education background, they don't know anything about business. And so that's when I built up the whole business side of things, because that was my background, that was my experience. And so we have a whole business side, marketing, business, coaching tools. How do you say what you do without feeling icky and salesy? How do you get the word out? How do you have those conversations with parents? How do you market yourself? How do you, all of that. It just really supporting them on the business side too, so they can have kids to coach, because they get into this work because they want to help kids. For them to stay in the work, they've got to have kids to coach. And that's why learning the business side is so important.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things you just mentioned is that how to deal with the parents,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times when I was earlier in my career as a martial arts instructor, I used to take everybody and anybody, and people used to like pull up. The kids would jump out. The
Yeah.
kids would take class. I would meet the parents the one time when they joined and when they quit.
Hmm.
And sometimes it was they would quit after a year, sometimes they would quit after 3 years because now they're moving on to something else or whatnot.
Right.
But that stopped because now I say to the parents, even on the phone, we're not childcare. So if you want to enroll your child in my classes, you actually have to stay. And we have a seating area for the parents in the class, and the parents actually have to work with their kids. And it's very interesting because when now the kids are considering quitting, the parents are like, "Oh no, there's no way you're quitting. I see what Sifu's teaching you. You need these lessons. You need to be here."
Powerful. Yeah.
So yeah, that's when I changed that, everything changed for us because now the parents see why we do things a certain way. Before, when the parents used to drop off, they didn't see the value that we bring, right? So that was a huge impact for us as well. And now the parents are looking at a different, as martial arts is not just martial arts anymore,
Right.
because I'm not just teaching punching and kicking. I have mat chats with them. They have to know what to say to somebody who's hurting them, whether physically, mentally, making fun of them. So we get into all the different aspects of self-defense. And so
Yeah.
the parents know it. Then they also have to go do the techniques on their parents. And the parents are like, oh, check it out. So it has changed the way we do everything
Yeah.
because it's truly family oriented. Like before, it was just like we were just teaching one person. Now I'm teaching the parents too. And so are
Yeah.
my instructors, right?
Yeah. Love that. Yeah.
What's you talked about talking to the parents,
Mhm.
teaching the coaches how to navigate those waters. Um, what's one of the most important lessons that a new coach for you should understand about when they work with, even though the child may be their client,
Right. Mm-hmm.
working with the parent themselves?
Mm-hmm. So the thing that is interesting about the parents who hire coaches, they're engaged parents. So they want to be involved. And so for our coaches, it is about involving the parents. There's always an intake process with the parent, understand what's causing them to want to get coaching for their child, what's causing the child to want to be coached. It has to be both of them on the journey, right? And then how to check in and communicate the value, checking in, making sure they're seeing some changes, for each one of our skills that our coaches teach, we have something called a wisdom for home. So it's a one pager we give to the parent so they can continue the conversation at home between sessions. And a lot of our coaches will have check-in calls with parents, and then of course we debrief at the end as well. But most of our coaches will have multiple packages that they'll go through. The curriculum has 27 skills, but most of
Yeah.
our coaches will package them around different areas of transformation, like self-esteem or confidence or building resilience or going for goals, self-leadership, peer pressure, that kind of thing. Yeah, so it is important, but parents want to be involved. Anyone who hires a coach for their child is an engaged parent.
Well, yes and no. I'm going to tell you, I have friends who have martial arts schools. I have friends who have yoga schools. I have friends who have gymnastics schools. And they tell me some of the stories of
Mhm.
parents who pay a lot of money, but the parents send their babysitters or their nannies,
Yeah.
and the parents never show up for their stuff. For example, I had a birthday party, and it was people we didn't know, and the dad was not engaged at all, and the mom was more worried about hanging out with her friends while her son was having a party with all his friends, and they didn't. I had to keep calling, come, we're going to take a picture. Come, let's be part of this. Let's do. So a lot of times I still find parents who don't realize the value of having that child, why they had the child to begin with. And you may find that a lot of people, yes, they understand the value of being a parent, but we still live in a society where people are doing it because the Joneses have a child. Oh, so we need a child. Or it was an accident and now we have to deal with this child. So there's still that misconnect, right? So I didn't mean to go on a different tangent, but it is the reality that I see and I've seen with a lot of friends of mine.
Yeah, well, there's definitely that. And I was more referring to people who hire a coach for one-on-one coaching for their child. But
Gotcha.
you absolutely, that still happens. And our coaches will do after school programs, or they'll run workshops, or they'll go to a scout, do a presentation or do a training for a scout group or
Mhm.
something. And so you definitely more likely have those sorts of situations. And the engagement of parents is going to be at all different levels.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I agree, one-on-one is pretty interesting. I have a friend of mine in California who he teaches children one-on-one only, but a lot of the times he does a session with the parents by themselves without the child as well,
Yeah.
which now makes that connection because then he'll have like five sessions with just the child. On the
Yeah.
sixth one, it's got to be the child and the parent, and
Hmm.
maybe on the eighth or ninth one, it's just the parent.
Yeah.
So he can inform them of what's going on, what's going to happen moving forward. Right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a great model for sure, especially that one-on-one attention. And for our coaches as well, when they're working with a child, vast majority of the time, the parent's not in the room. And the reason for that is when the parent is in the room, the child's going to behave a different way.
Mm,
They might look at the parent for approval or censor themselves or and it kind of too depends on the different skills. Like some of our skills, especially the ones that teach the brain science behind our work, are great to have the parents in the session too, so they can learn it at the same time.
mm.
But I think it's a great model to have that mixture, and for the your friend or even our coaches to be able to have that one-on-one time with parents as well. What are you observing? That kind
Mm.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When you said you have three criteria for you to be able to take someone into your program as a coach.
Hmm.
Have you ever had to kick a coach out?
We haven't had to kick anyone out, but we've definitely told people, "Hey, we're not the right fit for you,"
Mm,
for
yeah,
sure. We've had
yeah,
that not very often because
right.
we have the way our onboarding process works and the way, we have an overview video that everyone has to watch before they have a call with one of our success coaches. And we have an application process. So people self-select in. By the time we have a conversation with someone, they know whether or not we're the right fit for them. When we
Mm,
have a conversation with them, we call it, coaching kids strategy session call. It's about us making sure that they're the right fit for us and our community and doing this kind of work. And by the time people get there, the vast majority of the times it is going to be the right fit. And sometimes when it's not the right fit, it's more of a business model thing. Maybe they were wanting to
mm,
argue intellectual property in a way that they're not licensed to use it. It's, not that they're not a good person and not that they wouldn't be great with kids. Usually it's more of a business model type issue.
mm,
It's only been a couple of times. I mean, think about it, I've been doing this for like 12 years and I've had
Wow.
well over 1,000 conversations just myself with people
Mm.
over the years. And so sometimes not very often, but sometimes you're like, oh, how'd that happen? You
Right,
know,
right.
I mean, you deal with the public too, so you know that people can be interesting sometimes.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it's
People
like,
are very interesting, right?
yeah, and another thing I learned very early on is not everyone has the same like morals and values and that I have and value system that I have. And it's not even that not to judge them, it's just that it may not be in alignment as well. And it's one of the reasons why too we talk about what our values are with people too when they come in.
Mm, love it. Um, Parents, why should they look for coaching for their children? Are
Yeah.
they not getting enough? Are they not getting schooling? Are they not getting sports coaching? Are they not? Why should they look for coaching for their children?
Yeah. So life coaching, it's all about mindset development. It's really about supporting our kids and learning about the power of their mind. Most parents don't know how to teach this, and it's certainly not taught in vast majority of schools. And when we talk about our coaches, they're not there to replace the parent. They're there as part of the parents team. In fact, the book I wrote just last year is called A Parent's Guide to Life Coaching for Kids: When to Add a Coach to Your Parenting Team. Because it
Mm,
really is about working together with the parent to support that child and being more empowered. So the kids are learning skills like the values and value system of self leaders, how to make
mm,
good decisions, how their mind works and the brain science behind it, skills like self talk and shifting their thinking, how to, like I said, set and achieve their goals, how to navigate changes, how to move through fear, how to navigate making a mistake. How
mm.
to identify conditional thinking so it doesn't keep them from their goals. I mean, these are very powerful mindset skills that can help our children just be confident and prepared to just thrive in life.
Mm. I love it. I love it. Also, I'm gonna add to that. I think that no child was ever born with a manual.
Right. Lifted
Right?
mine up there was nothing under there. So oops.
No, no child ever came in and go, "Yep, this is how I'm handled. This is how you
Exactly.
need to treat me, and
Yeah.
this is how I learn." Right? Just you understanding the difference between you and your sister, not
Mhm.
that she was smarter, is that she learned differently, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Now my little 5-year-old self, 6-year-old self didn't know that. Right.
mhm,
I didn't discover that until much, much later. And it's one of the things too as a parent, some of my own life lessons I was able to parent my kids in certain ways and communicate certain lessons as well, um, to just from based on my own childhood wounds in a way to make sure that they didn't fall into the same path.
I love it. I love. So let me ask you: do you have an assessment for children so that you can determine, for the coaches to determine, how am I going to deliver this material to this child, because this child is different than this child? Do
Yeah.
you have an assessment for that?
Well, we have an intake process
Mhm.
that's is conversation with the child about different areas of their life and how they most want to work or what they most want to work on. And also it helps the coach discover more about that child and how that child might like to learn. And then the coaches adopt or adapt based on who they're working with. But as far
Mm,
as like actually filling out an assessment to say, hey, this is exactly this child's personality style, we
mm,
don't have that per se,
right.
but they through this intake process they can really understand more about that child and talking to the parent too. The parent
Yeah.
can give a lot of insight.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yes.
They can tell you how they behave,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, I got to tell you, Renee, great conversation. I really appreciate what you're doing, the impact you're having, because one of the things I always tell the parents, by the way, what I'm teaching your children here, continue at home,
Yes.
because your children are my future. And believe it or not, they're
Right.
your future too. So thank you for what you're doing. Your website is going across the bottom of the screen. Everybody take a look at it. I'm also going to put it in the chat for a quick second so everybody can click on that, right? I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it in the comments so everybody can look at it, click on it. Tell us what they can expect when they go to your website.
Well, it's adventuresinwisdom.com. I invite you to first check out a free coaching story. It's the one on self-talk. See what this is all about. And if you're a parent, you're interested in working with one of our coaches, there's a tab that says for parents. If you think you might love to coach children yourself, there's a tab there that says be a coach, and you can learn all about it on the website.
Love it. Love it. Great. Everybody make sure you go to this. Even if you have children and you are thinking, should I not? I think it would be a great idea just to go find out, right?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. Everybody do me a favor, share this show, great insights that you can share with a friend. Maybe somebody else has kids and you don't have any. It's still okay, right? This is how we make the world a better place. Share this show and share what Renaye has shared with us today. Thank you, Renaye. Don't go away. Everybody else, have yourself an exceptional rest of the day, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.